Whether it's £40 or £10, being a carp angler, I simply love catching carp. But there is always a little bit of pressure when it comes to putting carp on the mat in front of the camera on a day only session. For this short video, you join me here on the other side of the river at Linear Fisheries on the new Tar Farm complex. Now this is actually a complex of lakes that I haven't actually fished before, but they offer some absolutely fantastic fishing. Like I said, I'm here for a day. Day only fishing can be tricky, but if you get everything prepared the night before and you have absolutely every eventuality covered, you can certainly make the most of your day and you can really have a good day's fishing. And it started off with this absolutely stunning little mirror of about 10 to 12 pound. Lovely times. Let's run through the tactics and see if we can get a couple more bites. Vital that when you're doing day only fishing, you have absolutely everything prepared and ready to go. Predominantly, I'm a bait angler. I like to put my rods out on the bottom and put a bit of bait out over the top. But on day only fishing, sometimes those sort of opportunities just don't present themselves, and it isn't always the best method to go in with. Now, prior to this trip here to Tar Farm, I got everything ready from solid bags, PVA mesh, rigs to fish over bait, as well as Zigs, so I can change very, very easily should I need to. Now, when I arrived this morning, the peg that I'm in, which is peg 13 on Lake 5, on the map, it presents itself so many options. It's the height of summer now, which really, this is the best time to be out doing days because it's nice. You can go out, you can enjoy the day, you're not getting wet, you're not getting cold, but at the same time, you can pack up in the evening so you're not getting absolutely battered by mosquitoes throughout the course of the night. Now, when I arrived here this morning, like I said, this peg has got so many features and it's got a real shallow area round to the right. Now, the way in which it works on Tar Farm is you do have to book on to be able to fish here, but by looking at the map, I was able to pick myself a peg that I felt presented me the most options in one swim. Summertime, shallow water, it is a combination that carp absolutely love. And lo and behold, as soon as I got into the peg this morning, one solid bag, out onto the shallows, bang, first fish under my belt. And to be honest, when you're fishing a day only trip, if you can get a bite during the day, for me, that is absolutely amazing. I have got the rest of the day. It is only early. You don't know what else could possibly happen. But whether, like I said in the intro, whether it's £10 or it's £40, I'm a carp angler. I absolutely love catching carp of all shapes and sizes. I've already had one, so to me, this trip has been well worth it. Even though I am on a day session and I have got every eventuality covered, a lot of my fishing does revolve around putting bait in, but it works time and time again. And if you can find a spot and you can introduce bait quickly and accurately, you're making absolute minimal disturbance, but you've also got bait out there for if the fish do move and get onto it later on in the session. Now, when I got here, the area to my right is very shallow, and it was quite sort of obvious that that's where the fish were. Solid bag, straight out onto the spot. Whilst those rods were out there, I had a little lead around just out to my left, not nowhere near the fish because I didn't want to spook them by leading around, but I just managed to find a nice clear spot. And again, like I say to so many people, I'm not looking for a top of a bar or a silt gully or anything like that. I'm looking for somewhere that's shallow enough that I can present bait and I'm able to put bait out over the top. nice and accurate, and like I say as well, making sure that I can present a rig over the top as well. Now I found a spot out there, that rod was out there, I put 10 spoms out and almost sort of had it as a rod that, you know what, if the fish come in and out the bay, it might potentially go. And yeah, here we are. I'm now into a fish over the baited area. It has taken a fair while to get one over the bait, but again, like I say, it's all about having every eventuality covered. I've got a solid bag on the rod round there, my trusty Illusion D-rig on this rod here, and what I've done as well is I've put a Zig out as well, just in case, because there are fish coming in and out the bay all the time, and you never know at what depth these fish are going to be coming in and out of. But this one is over bait, so it just goes to show that if you have got a method that works well for you, just because you're on a day session, don't be afraid to find a spot and don't be afraid to put a little bit of bait in. I've got this one out here wallowing on the surface. Hopefully he's going to be ready for the net soon. And we'll have our second Tar Farm carp in the net. Have a nice mirror. There's the old rig. Yeah! There we go, 2 carp on 2 different tactics. Just because I'm on a day session, it doesn't mean that I won't bring any bait with me. A lot of my angling revolves around finding a spot and putting bait out. And just because I am on a day session, it doesn't mean that I can't make a little bit of disturbance with a lead, find a spot and apply some bait. But what I do is, rather than bringing all of the bait that I carry with me out of the van and leaving it in the swim, is I've refined it down to enough bait to make about 3 small mixes, and I've just put it inside this 17-litre bucket, and this is how I put it in there. Nice and simple, nice and clean. So I've just got 3 bait tubs. The first one has got boilies straight out the bag, and what you'll notice there is these aren't washed out. Now, because I'm on a day session, I'm not going to be fishing for the rest of the week. The last thing that I want to be doing is washing out the same amount of bait as what I would be using when I'm doing a longer session. So I'm bringing them fresh. They're whole. They're obviously freezer baits. I'm chopping them up as I use them. If I don't use all these, they'll go back into the bag and they'll go back into the freezer. So that's the first little pot. Second pot, pellets. Obviously I knew I was coming up to Tar Farm. It is a new complex and the fish in here are very young. They're pellet reared. Bring pellets. These fish adore them. In fairness, I should probably use pellets a lot more on the other lakes because they are massively overseen. These fish are grown and they're reared on pellets, and it seems like when they get put into a lake, the last thing that most anglers actually put out is pellets. So I got myself a tub of 6mm pellets there. In the bottom tub, again, in a little 2-pint bait tub, I've got hemp and chopped peanut. The reason why I got hemp and chopped peanut is because I had it boiling away at home. I had a few chopped peanuts, so I just added them in there as well. Fantastic bait, works time and time again, and I have it in all of my mixes. So there's the 3 bait tubs, keeping it nice and simple. And then all I've got as well is I've slid down the side just a couple of cans of sweet corn. Again, sweet corn works absolutely everywhere. The fish love it. Again, with these fish being young, with the lake being quite deep, it's visual, it smells nice, it tastes nice, it drags them down onto the bottom, and it just completes the mix. So having 3 2-pint bait tubs and 4 cans of corn, the ratio that I'd probably go when it comes to mixing the bait is I'd go for a level amount on each one, because it just means that I've not got to keep going back to the van to get one ingredient should I run out of it. So I just go sort of a third hemp, a third pellets, a third chopped boilies, and 1 can of sweet corn. That's enough to make a mix. Put it out there. If it goes, or if I feel I should put more bait out, I'd make exactly the same up. And like I always say, one of the biggest keys in fishing and when you're fishing over a baited area is to remain consistent and keep everything the same every single time. So there you go, that's all the bait that I bring with me. Obviously, I've got more bait back in the van, but that bait there is enough for me to establish a spot, get myself a couple of bites, which, let's be honest, if you can get a couple of bites on a day session, you've had a major result.
Yeah, it's quite, is it?
That's a proper zig bite. But no sooner had I just unhooked that one that I've just caught over the bait, my other rod was away and this one is on a zig. So I've now had a bite on 3 different methods, and we're not even halfway into our day session yet. So it just shows that being prepared and having everything to hand and being able to change quickly and act on what you're seeing definitely maximises your chance of getting as many bites as you possibly can. And yeah, great fun here on Tar Farm. I've not fished on here before, like I said, but it's definitely somewhere that I'll be spending a lot more time. For me, as an angler, it's not about going every week and catching and targeting big carp. I've got just as much of a buzz playing this fishing as what I would have if I was fishing lakes with loads of big uns in. There we go. Such good fun, isn't it? Love it. Whoosh. Another one. I did that, didn't he? There we go then, that's the one that I caught on the Zig, a similar sort of size to the one that I caught over the bait as well. I've now had 3 carp on 3 different tactics. And the beauty is as well with Tar Farm, even though it is a newly open complex, aside from there being loads of lovely fish in each of the lakes that's on this side of the river, there is also a load of big fish spread across the complex as well. So while it's good fun catching these, you know that the next bite could just be a big fish. And as everybody will know that watches this, that's fished linear, this was exactly how the other lakes over the other side started. So in years to come, what a complex this is going to be. So I'm just going to run you through now the solid bag setup that I use for most of my fishing when doing so with solid bags, and it is very, very simple and it requires minimal components. Now, prior to this trip, I didn't actually pre-tie any solid PVA bags, and the reason why I don't do that is A, because I can't change the hook baits once they're inside the bag. So should a certain hook bait start working really well, I'm gonna have to dismantle the bags and re-tie them. And also as well, over time, especially if you don't use all your bags and they're left tied up, the pellets inside the bags can affect the buoyancy of the hook bait that you're using. When you cast it out, it can just affect the way in which the rig works. Not only that as well, using the rapid loader system that I like to use a majority of the time, it takes seconds to tie up a PVA bag. So I'm just going to show you now the setup that I like to use. It is very, very simple, and like I've said, comprises of minimal components. Now, first and foremost, I've got a 3-ounce impact inline solid bag lead. Now, there's 2 reasons why I use these leads. First and foremost, they've got a flat back. So when I'm constructing a PVA bag, certainly when fishing short to mid-range, what I'd like to do is I like to almost have the back of the PVA bag, if you like, running parallel to the lead. So when the lead goes out inside the bag, the lead is obviously the heaviest part of the bag, therefore the lead sits down flat on the bottom, meaning that it isn't in the way and it isn't marsing the hook, which is obviously at the bottom of the PVA bag. And secondly, the way in which the hook link exits the lead is right in the middle. So when the fish picks up the hook bait, it is feeling maximum weight from that lead and it is really driving the hook home. So that's the lead that I like to use. Now onto the hook link itself. I've got about 5.5 inches of 25-pound reflex camo, which is a braid. It is important to note that whenever you're using solid PVA bags, a coated braid, mono or fluorocarbon hook link simply is not acceptable. You can't be using these inside a solid bag. If you do, the rig's going to be kinked and it isn't going to work how it should be working. And all I've done is I've knotless knotted onto there a size 5 super wide gape hook. The hook bait is just a small piece of plastic corn, and what you'll notice as well is I haven't actually got a small piece of silicone up the shank of the hook, which is something that I would normally do in the past. But as my fishing sort of adapts and evolves, if you like, over time, I've almost come to learn that really when you're fishing solid PVA bags, I don't really need it on there. It's just something else on the rig that I feel I don't need. But should I be using this rig, obviously, with coated braid and I was casting it as a single with a hook on mesh bag, yes, I would put the small piece of silicone on. Because first and foremost, what it does is it stops the hook bait from tangling around the hook on the cast. And secondly, one of the reasons why using silicone is a massive advantage, I think, over using a ring when using a conventional hair rig is because if you actually get picked up over the bait or you get done, the silicone will be blown back. So it's a great indicator to know whether you need to rebait or change some things with your rig components. But when it comes to a solid PVA bag, exactly how that rig's tied, I can lay it inside the PVA bag and I know that every time I cast it out, it isn't going to tangle. So that's the rig and the hook bait setup that I use. Like I said, very, very simple, but very, very effective. And what is also simple and very effective is what I'm holding up here. Now this is the rapid bag loader. Now obviously I've used solid bags for years and years and years, long before the rapid bag loader come out. They are a fiddly process, but I have mastered the art of being able to tie one without the rapid bag loader before it come out. But let me tell you, since these have come out, it has made solid bag fishing, not only for myself, but for the masses, so much easier. It means people can tie a bag without being all fingers and thumbs, because these really are the most simple way to tie a solid bag. And the way in which I like to construct my bag, and I see so many people constructing them wrong, and believe it or not, it is very easy to tie a solid bag wrong. One of the biggest things that I see is the lead placement in a bag. Now whenever I'm loading up a PVA bag, I'll always put the hook bait at the bottom of the bag, unless I am going for extreme range, in which case the lead goes in the center at the bottom of the bag, and the last thing to go in is the hook bait. But for majority of my fishing, I will always lay the hook bait in at the bottom, and like I just said, without using a piece of silicone on the hair, I can see exactly how that rig is laying in that bag. And I know it sounds obvious, but how that rig is laying in that bag, when you put your pellets over the top and you tie off that solid bag, that rig will not move. How you lay it in that bag is exactly how it's going to look when it melts out onto the bottom. So all I'm doing is I'm literally opening up the bag with the rapid loader, using the little V in the back of the loader to hold everything in place. I'm putting the hook bait at the bottom, lying the hook flat, a small piece of pellet, and like I said, with the impact in lines, I'm laying the back of the lead up the side of the bag, almost creating like a flatbed method feeder type approach, filling it up with pellets. I'm leaving a little bit at the top, licking, sticking, pushing the device back over on itself, sealing off the bag, folding in the corners. It really is that simple. And I have done a complete video where I did talk about PVA in a lot more detail, and I've done a step-by-step guide on exactly how I tie a bag. But like I say, a very simple rig, a very simple way of constructing a PVA bag, but it is an absolutely deadly method. A whizzing Barry. Little short zig over the bait, yeah? Killer method. I literally just put in one back and it's gone again. This time it's on a zig. And I did put the zig just off the side of the bait, and it was probably only about, I think it's about 4 foot deep, this one. But this is sort of something that I want to use a lot more in my fishing, short zigs over the bait, because having done an underwater film recently, and I do study quite a lot of the underwater films that get put out, the fish never enter the spot when they're on the bottom of the lake. They always enter the spot from sort of 2 to 4 feet above. And I think there's a lot to be said for having a short zig off the side of the bait. It is something that I've caught fish on before, but I don't know, when you're catching them off the bottom, it's always hard to sort of commit that one rod to a zig, because they are prone to tangling, especially short ones, because it's hard to watch them fly out there. But this has just proved again that short zigs off the side of the bait is definitely a massively underused tactic, and something that I feel is, or will be, massively beneficial to my fishing, because like I've just said, the fish spend a lot of the time off the bottom and they sort of ghost in over the spot, not actually down on the spot. And funnily enough, just before I had this bite, I'd had a couple of liners on the rods on the bottom. And I wonder if a couple of fish had come down, had a little feed, felt the line, come up off of the bottom, and sort of were mooching around in the upper sort of layers above the spot before they decided to dip back down and feed. And you know, bonus bites are always good, and every bite is is one closer to a fish that you're targeting, shall we say. So I'm going to try and get this one in, because like I said, even though the Tar Farm complex is newly open, there are some lovely carp in here, and there's a lot of decent ones in here as well. So the more you catch, the better your chance of getting a better one. Yes, there we go. Another one, biggest one of the trip so far as well. That'll do. That'll do, donkey. Well, definitely today having everything ready and prepared has paid off, because it seems like short zigs are the one. And luckily enough, I have everything to hand when it comes to zig fishing, because when it kicks off like it has done now, it can be quite a messy task. But I've got another one on now. This is a really, really nice fish, a perfect fully scaled. Again, on the short zig off the side of the bait. Definitely the winning method. I've still got the other fish in there, as you can see. It is proper kicked off. Got that one in the net. There we go. Yes, that is a lovely fish. Kicking off. Right, let's deal with these fish, shall we? Madness. Well, how's that one then? What a stunning Tar Farm Lake 5 carp. And the winning tactic today definitely is proving short zigs over the baited area. Again, having everything prepared and ready to rock and roll has meant I can chop and change depths, and the bites have carried on coming. I think this is bite number 6 now, I believe. Unbelievable action, and look at that. The future of Linear is very, very bright. What a great day's fishing it's been so far. Well, not only is the rod on a zig doing the most amount of bites, it's just chipped in with this one, which is the biggest of the day so far. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one back, and the rods, oh, it's just going to kick. And what I'm going to do is the rods that I've got on the bottom over the bait, I'm actually going to change them over, and I'm going to put them on zigs. I'm going to fish with 3 mini zigs on 3 different colours over the baited area. This fish is kicking off. I'm going to put this one back, and we'll try and get ourselves another one. Being organised, certainly on day sessions, will without a doubt catch you more fish. Now, I'm not talking about maybe loads of organisation, loads of preparation at home, but having everything ready when you're actually on the bank, not fumbling through your bag, not having to go back to your van, having everything to hand, having everything in small little compartment boxes, so you know that you can just put your hand in your holdall and you can grab out what you need, which is exactly what I've got on the end of my bed here. What I've got here is absolutely everything to enable me to fish from a solid, a single, a PVA bag, a zig, and also if I want to put some bait out, I've got bait at the front of the swim as well. So all I've got here is I've got a real small EVA bag. I've got my pellets below that. If I open up the lid like so, in the top compartment, I carry just what I need. I've got a rapid bag loader system. I've got a few leads in there, as well as a couple of different hook baits and some spare PVA bags, should I catch a few carp. That's one little bag. I've got the PVA mesh tube, because you never know if the fish are showing and you want to ping a little PVA bag on it rather than tying up a solid. I've got that as well, which is always to hand. My tackle box, I've got absolutely everything in there. This is loaded to the hilt, and I can tie any rig that I want to. 9 times out of 10, no, it's just an Illusion D-rig, but I can tie anything I want to. It's to hand, everything's in there. There's nothing else left in the bag. And then lastly, if I want to fish zigs, I've just again got myself a nice pencil case type EVA bag, a little spare tub of foam, so everything is to hand. And what I do, even when I'm fishing for a bit of a session, I almost treat it as I set up and I pack up, and that's come from years and years of fishing back on Walthamstow, where it was days only and you had to be super mobile. And what I mean by that is I'm setting all my kit up, I'm getting out what I need, but then I'm packing up the rest of the stuff that I don't need. So should I need to move or act on something, it's very, very easy to just grab something out, tie a rig, or like I say, move. So there you go. One of the biggest things when it comes to day session fishing, if you want to make the most of your time on the bank, make sure you're organised, and you will definitely catch more carp. Last light bite. Well, I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but I've literally pulled the van up, loaded everything in it, and as is always the way, even if I'm fishing on a session, I always leave the rods till the very last thing to bring in. And there's a couple of swans in front of the peg, and whilst I'm putting a few things in the van, I thought the line had gone around one of their necks, should we say, and it ripped off, and I'm into another fish. So it's looking like we're going to end the session, provided I get it in on a high. What I did do as well, which is worth noting, is I eventually ended the day by putting all 3 of the rods over the baited area, 1 on a zig and 2 on the bottom, purely and simply because nothing else turned up in the shallows around to my right, and the zig had done 4 or 5 bites and the bottom had done 1. But I hadn't had a bite or hadn't had any activity for a good few hours. and I had a little bit of bait left in the bait tubs, knocked it up, put it out there, and it hadn't been out there 25 minutes and it's gone. So it just shows that if you haven't had a bite, even on a day session, you know, right at the very end, even if it's with 20 minutes to go, if you haven't had a bite and you feel like you should have had one, make a recast, because you never know. You might just make that one little cast out and you might get yourself a dying bite like what this one is on this. I'm going to concentrate on getting this one in, because it would be nice to end the day with another fish in the net. It's just out here now, it's just kicking off. This one is on the Illusion D over the bait. So today I've caught on a solid bag with a little bit of plastic corn. I've had a couple on the Illusion D rig and I've had a few on Zigs as well. So it's been an amazing day. I've caught fish on 3 different tactics. You know what, it's actually been quite refreshing to come and do a day trip, and what I like about it now is I can pack up and I can go and have some mackies for tea rather than being bitten by mosquitoes all night. You know what, I've got my fix. I've done exactly what I wanted to do. I've come fishing, I've enjoyed myself, I've had a great day in doing so, and I've caught some lovely, lovely carp. Now the swans, which were in the swim, are now giving it the chief wiggin to this fish, which has done absolutely nothing wrong bar splash around underneath them and disturb them whilst they're trying to eat a little bit of weed. Lovely looking fish, they're really nice fish. Be nice to get this one in to end the trip on this one. A thoroughly enjoyable day angling. Although we have got to pack up because the gate does close at 9 o'clock and we are getting closer and closer to that time. There we go, ending the day on a high with another Tar Farm lake carp. We are literally going to have to get this out, show you it and dash, because it is about 8:45 now and the gate's closed at 9 o'clock and I don't want to be locked in. Well, all the mat and everything's packed away in the van, so what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to lower the net down and I'm just going to release this one. A really nice scaly carp. What a great way to end what has been an absolutely brilliant day. If I can get him out. Where is he? Look at that. What a glorious carp. Again, around the 10 to 12 pound mark, but the future of this place, very, very bright. They've all got to start somewhere. Look at that. What a great day it's been. Hope you've enjoyed it. Lovely times.